It's late November in Ireland, and the temperature has certainly dropped. It's now only 3 degrees, and this Volkswagen Beetle is still out of the garage and still being used. So why am I using a classic Volkswagen Beetle in Irish winter? And is it something that you can do comfortably? Well, let me talk to you about that. Many years ago, I only had the space and the resources to keep one car on the road. This was that car. I used to use this as a daily driver, and that meant driving it in the winter and in the summer and in all weathers. So yeah, some people thought it was a bit mad, but don't forget, these were built as family cars. So they were still very, very usable as a daily driver, with a few kind of little caveats and things that you have to adjust your expectation on. So let's talk about those. It goes without saying that the standard of maintenance that you need to keep the car to is much higher when you're relying on it as your only mode of transport. So that means when there is a squeak or rattle or a niggle or something not feeling right, you fix it there and then. You don't wait until things deteriorate to the point where it's going to leave you stranded on the side of the road. This has proven to be a very reliable car, and in actual fact, when it was in daily use, I really didn't have any more problems with it than I did with any other car, simply because of the fact that I looked after it. Now, the biggest problem is always going to be rust when you're talking about 50-year-old cars, and that's simply because of the fact that you grit the roads here with salt, and the salt is going to dissolve the bottom of the bodywork, and the best way around that is to make sure that the undersealing is kept topped up and that there's no kind of water ingress into places where it can't get out, and that if there is any rust starting to creep in, that you rub it back and you paint it. So again, a sort of a proactive approach to the bodywork as much as to the mechanical side of things. The other thing as well is the electrics. Now, the electrics are also 50 years old, okay? So you're talking about degrading wiring, corroded contacts, this kind of thing, okay? But a can of contact cleaner, a little bit of emery paper or copper bristled brushes or that kind of thing can go a long way towards cleaning up spade terminals and making sure that stuff works the way it's supposed to. And yeah, there's going to be things you're going to have to replace and all of that as well. Now, as far as modifications are concerned, that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because without kind of getting too bogged down into detailed modifications, don't forget, you're not using 50-year-old tyres. You're using much better tyres. They're not bias or cross-ply tyres anymore. You're using decent tyres. You put these are Yokohama tyres on this car, so that makes a huge difference in and of itself. So the way it handles is going to be an awful lot better. Make sure that the tyre pressure stays right and that as well, and that your wheels are in good order and all that too. Brakes, same situation. A lot of the aftermarket stuff is just that much better. You can also modify it with an electronic ignition kit. Some people think that is not a good idea because electronic ignition modules can fail immediately. That's the same for any electronic device, to be honest with you though, so I don't buy into that. I think it's the number one modification to do to the car if you want it to be reliable and easy to start in all weathers. Stick an electronic ignition module in, but a decent quality one, so the likes of a Pertronics kit or something like that, not the cheap Chinese pieces of rubbish as well. And also, I have had issues with condensers when I've been running points where the condensers just don't work straight out of the box. So, you know, I mean, you're talking about, well, okay, so your electronic ignition module has failed or your condenser has failed. Either way, you're bunched. So yeah, just buy quality. Buy it once and buy it right. Same applies for everything else. Headlights. Now, you will have seen in a recent video that I upgraded the headlights on this Beetle with Xenon HID headlights. And that is simply because of the fact that when I've been driving home in the mornings, when I've been driving into work at night, coming home in the mornings against a steady stream of traffic with Xenon headlights, I can't see a damn thing with the H4 headlight bulbs that were in this. So, yeah, it was definitely a worthwhile upgrade. Do you need to go that far? No, I wouldn't suggest you do. I think, to be honest with you, if the wiring was in good order, the headlight bulbs were getting voltage, and you were using good quality headlight bulbs with the reflectors in good order, again, same situation. You're going to have reasonable enough headlights, and the round headlights themselves have decent reflectors on them, so they actually do work really well. Now, the other thing I want to talk to you about is heat. Beetle heaters can leave a little bit to be desired at times, depending on the type of driving you're doing. If you're spending a lot of time stuck in traffic, or it's slow moving traffic or that, you're going to find the heaters are not up to much. Now, there are ways around this problem. One of them is installing a booster fan in the heater pipe that comes from the heater channel into the heat exchanger into the heater channel, and that's something I've done in the past, and it does work. You can use bilge blower fans, that kind of thing. The other thing you can do is use a supplementary diesel heater like an Eberspacher or one of the Chinese heaters, which means that they don't rely on the engine's heat at all, and you get fairly instantaneous heat. They take up quite a bit of space is the only thing. Now I have got good quality heat exchangers in this. I'm running a thermostat, and that's something we're going to come back to now in a second as well. And the engine does heat up quite rapidly, and once I get moving, the heat is reasonable enough. The problem is that you don't have decent demisters when the engine is not spinning quickly or not fully heated up. So you tend to find yourself doing an awful lot of the classic car driver's way. And that is something you will spend an awful lot of time doing regardless, unless you have the Eberspacher heater, which does make a big difference. But that's quite a significant modification, and the focus of this video isn't about doing huge modifications to the cars. Now, yes, I know this is a modified car, but it is one that, like, taking aside all the modifications, you can still live with a standard Beetle quite easily. Case in point, it's a cold night and I'm on my way to the shops, so I can use this car if I want to, and I will. This car has fuel injection and a modified engine, so it's probably a bad example in certain respects in how it starts when it's cold. However, a Beetle, when it's in good tune and in good order with all the parts the way they're supposed to be, don't forget they're designed for a German winter and they should be well able to start in the depths of winter. The trick when starting a standard Beetle from cold is, don't mind the noise of fuel pumps and all that carry on, it's obviously not going to have that, but basically pump the accelerator a couple of times, and that will set the choke, and then just and it should be no more difficult to start than that. And sometimes a little blip is all that's needed just to clear the generator light. Now, what is very important is that when you do get out driving, you don't rev the hell out of it, you don't drive it hard. Just ease into the throttle and let everything stabilise and warm up naturally. That kind of goes back to what I was saying about having a thermostat on the engine, because that will help the engine warm up to operating temperature faster. But that is it is also important that you let the engine warm up gently, so don't plant the boot, just be gentle with it. Treat it like an old car. Just by way of illustrating modern headlights, these are our xenon headlights and they're just warming up now, and you will see just how bright they get. Definitely you can see where you're going when you're using these things. A simple modification, but one that's definitely worthwhile, or at the very least getting decent H4 headlight bulbs and making sure that all your wiring is in good order. But there they are warmed up now, and yes, I can see brilliantly. I've now driven about a kilometre down the road, and I'm already getting warm air through to the dashboard, which is enough to demist the windscreen. So you can see, I can see absolutely perfectly where I'm going. What you guys can see is what I can see, and it's absolutely fine. And here we are pulled up outside the shops down the village from where I live, and it is about a kilometre and a half away, and the car is ticking over lovely. And this, again, as I said, if you have a standard Beetle that's well tuned up, there's no reason why it shouldn't be driving just as well as this. If you're finding the demisting needs an extra little bit of help, just open that. So let's talk about the standard of maintenance, shall we? One of the big things that Beetle engines benefit from these days is better quality engine oils. Yes, you're going to be running 20W50 engine oil with a high zinc content if you have any sense, to be honest with you, and that's one of the big things that you need to look out for, because they have flat tappet camshafts and that as well. They need the zinc in the oil in order to run well and to last. But you need to do your oil changes every 3,000 miles, and you need to make sure that you just have a check over your timing and tuning and everything like that. Don't go fiddling with stuff unnecessarily. If it's running right, best thing to do is leave it alone. Make sure your tappets are adjusted correctly and everything too. And if there's any oil leaks or anything like that, address them, get them dealt with, and that way then at least you know that you're not going to end up losing all your engine oil on the side of the road, or creating oil slicks for people like those on motorbikes or bicycles or that as well, because you don't need that either. Replace light bulbs when they go as well, same brake lights, indicator lights, same situation as a modern car. Just look after your car and that, and check the oil regularly. And to be honest with you, with a Beetle engine, you're better off doing it pretty much every time you put petrol in it. They'll happily run on unleaded petrol. You don't need to put any additives in them. Some people talk about using ethanol stabilizers and all this kind of stuff. That's only a problem if you're leaving the car sit for any length of time, because it's only the ethanol is hygroscopic. It absorbs water. The water falls out of suspension in the petrol and then it sits at the bottom, and then that's when you get problems. But if you're using the petrol, that doesn't happen. Check your fuel lines regularly, and that is a big one. Make sure that you check your fuel lines regularly, and I would also suggest keeping a fire extinguisher in the car that's easily accessible, so that you can rely, if you need to rely on it, that is there for you, because that can save your Beetle or save your life. Now, there's been a long held belief that when you see a thermostat on the Beetle engine, you take it off and you chuck it over your shoulder. No, don't do that, okay? Volkswagen engineers knew what they were doing when they designed these engines, okay? And I'm not going to second guess them, okay? They put a thermostat on the engine for a reason, okay? And if an engine builder is telling you that the engine does not need a thermostat, I'd be seriously questioning that engine builder. Now, I know that's controversial, but I'm sorry, but that's my belief on it, and I'm not going to listen to anything other than that. You put a thermostat on the engine. This is a 1915cc engine. It has a thermostat on it. The engine warms up to operating temperature very rapidly. It does not overheat, and it runs really well. And if you didn't have the thermostat, the engine would take an age to overheat, and then the oil is still staying too viscous and is not lubricating parts as well as it should. So there's a big knock-on effect on taking out bits that are supposed to be in the engine. Make sure that all the parts are there and are standard and are working well and are of a good quality. One other little modification that I would subscribe to the theory of being a good idea is the idea of upgrading from a dynamo to an alternator. And that's especially true if you're finding yourself stuck in traffic a lot, because you'll find your lights and wipers going quite dim if you're stuck in traffic, because the dynamo's just not generating the voltage when it's spinning slowly. An alternator is it was a standard fitment on later cars. It's not a kind of an upgrade to it's not a modification. It's more an upgrade, if you know what I mean. And is definitely one that's worthwhile, because it means that you can rely on your wipers and your lights to actually work. They're going to be getting their voltage, and yeah, the wipers are actually all right in the Beetle. I mean, once you've got decent wiper blades, and again, something that Beetle will benefit from modern parts on is things like wiper blades, which are much better than they were 50 years ago. Light bulbs are much better than they were 50 years ago. Tyres are much better than they were 50 years ago. Batteries are much better than they were 50 years ago. So even by just having those modern parts in the car, it does benefit a lot from those. And they're not really modifications as such. They're just kind of bringing the car into the 21st century. Now let's talk safety and security. Okay, so that's something that obviously you want to consider. This car doesn't have airbags. It has seatbelts. If you're in a crash in it, okay, you're probably not as likely to fare out as well as somebody who's in a 5-star Euro NCAP safety rated modern yoke or whatever. They can take a knock, and the big steel bumpers and everything like that. I speak from first-hand experience. I've been in a crash in this car, so I know it's they're very, very hardy cars, but if you get shunted in one, by Jesus, you will feel that shunt because it doesn't absorb the impact. The car will just bounce down the road a bit. I've seen much more serious crashes, like the aftermath of much more serious crashes in Beetles and that as well. And to be honest with you, people tend to walk away from them, but the car doesn't protect you as well as a newer car does. It probably protects itself a little bit better than a newer car would, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of the trade-off. So just drive defensively, you know, don't be racing up on the outside lane and stuff like that and then flashing the lights at somebody in the fast lane because you want to overtake them, even if you've got a bigger engine or whatever as well. Just hang back, go with the flow of the traffic, you know. Bear in mind that if you're doing a bit of speed, the front end can get a little bit lighter in a Beetle, and they do have a tendency to swap ends on you a little bit. As far as the kind of crash prevention is concerned, one of the things that makes a big difference is the tyres. Incidentally, tyre pressure on this, I run 27 psi in the back and 18 on the front, and I find the car drives really, really well at that. And this being a 1303S actually holds the road really well. One modification I do have in this, and it's something if you have a 1303 you might want to consider, is a rear anti-roll bar, and that is absolutely 100% transformative. This car handles just as well as my MGB, and honestly that's not an exaggeration. It's lower 2 inches, it's got the rear anti-roll bar, and it actually does handle really well. Stock Beetle should still handle quite well anyway, but bear it in mind, it was never intended to be a race car. As far as security is concerned, kill switches, steering locks, I have an alarm and remote central locking and an immobilizer in this. Cheap insurance to make sure that your pride and joy doesn't get robbed by some scrote who thinks they're going to have a bit of fun on it and then end up bringing it up the mountains and burning it out, which nobody wants to see. So yeah, definitely something that is worth considering. And things like kill switches and all that, they're easy to install. Just, be thoughtful about where you install it and all that kind of stuff as well, and what way you want to go about it. A lot of the time you kill the supply to the coil or whatever, and that will kill it. And then what you can do is you can lock the engine bay as well, and that'll stop somebody from getting in at the engine then. You need to also be conscious of the fact that your insurance company might not cover you if you're clocking up excess mileage on the car. So that's also something that you need to have a chat with your insurance company about. So yeah, definitely another little consideration too. So would I suggest using something like a Beetle in the winter? Well, yes, absolutely, provided that you're willing to keep on top of the maintenance. You don't let stuff get too bad, so if there's a little niggle or a squeak or rattle or something like that, fix it before it gets too bad. Keep it clean, well oiled, well lubricated, well greased, and look after it. You'll need to look after it better than you would, say, most modern cars. But yeah, it can absolutely be done, and I'm testament to that fact. I have done it for several winters, and this car has definitely rewarded me with good, reliable service, and they are not a bad little car. They can be very, very reliable for not a great deal of difficulty. I would also suggest that you learn a little bit about basic car maintenance and things like that. Doing things like oil changes in the Beetle, it's a very, very easy job to do. Oil change, spark plugs, point if you're going to stick with points. I don't recommend sticking with points. I recommend electronic ignition. Do the tappets, make sure the brakes stay in good order, and adjust them or service them as and when necessary. And just baby the car. And you will enjoy it. And yeah, okay, fair enough. Sometimes, like when it's lashing rain and it's lashing rain and it's freezing in the middle of the night, there are times then when you will maybe want to consider the fact that this is not the right car for that job when your electric Hyundai or something like that is sitting at home, if you have that option. But if you're going to daily a Beetle, it's absolutely doable, and I suggest do it because it is a bit of fun, and it kind of brings you back to the grassroots of motoring and the basic connection to the road. And makes you kind of appreciate things a little bit more as well. So I hope you got a bit from this video. Please comment down below. Let me know your observations. I'd like to hear from you if you've actually ever kind of done the whole kind of Beetle daily driving thing yourselves, and what your thoughts are on what I was saying as well. And if you have anything else to add to it, please do comment down below as well. And I look forward to hearing from you and look forward to speaking to you in a future video. Please hit the subscribe button before you go, folks, and I'll chat to you then. Thanks for watching.